What's going on, guys? UFC 313 is going on tonight. Pereira versus Ankalaev. I'm going to go through the most important fights on the card, breaking down who I think is going to win, how they're going to win, why they're going to win, and I'm really only going to talk about the ones that people give a shit about, so it shouldn't be too long. First fight, Curtis Blades versus Rizvan Kuniev. I'm taking Blades by ground and pound TKO in the second round. I think it's going to look very similar to how he put away Jelton Almeida. I think that he's going to be able to get his jab working. I think he's going to be able to start piecing up Kuniev on the feet, and it's going to force Kuniev to shoot a shitty takedown. It's going to be either Blades getting top position after that, or up against the fence, Kuniev trying to get a takedown, and Blades is just going back to the wheel well, and he's just dropping vicious elbows, hammer fists, whatever he needs to get him out of there. I don't really see a way that Kuniev, honestly, this fight makes no sense to me. How does Kuniev win on one fight on Contender Series and he's getting the number 5 guy in the world in Curtis Blades, who just lost in an interim title fight, and then a guy off fucking Contender Series is getting that fight? A guy who's a known roid cheat. How he even made it into the UFC makes no sense. I know that, Dagestani privilege and everything, they always get a little bit of a boost, but this seems pretty disrespectful to Curtis Blades, honestly. Um, yeah, I mean, this one's pretty simple. I really don't see a way that Kuniev can win this fight. Blades is just so good. I mean, you look at what he did to Almeida. You look at what he did, to Chris Dawkins, KOing him. I know it was 3 years ago, it's Chris Dawkins, but still. The only guys he's lost to is Pavlovich when he was on that crazy run, and Tom Aspinall. And, I mean, it's Tom Aspinall, you know what I mean? Like, it's just disrespectful to even put Kuniev against a guy like Blades. They should have done like Shamil the Blob Gaziev versus Kuniev. That's what they should have done. Not fucking Blades and Kuniev. But you know, good way to end off the prelims. Should be a pretty easy, pretty entertaining finish for Curtis Blades. Next fight on the card that I'm going to talk about is Bobby Green versus Mauricio Ruffy. I'm taking Ruffy, Hoofy, however you want to say it. First round KO. I think that Bobby Green, he's still good, but ever since that Jalen Turner fight, he hasn't fought a guy with the power and the skills like Huffy, and I think that he's going to be. I think that Ruffy's just going to honestly just put a clinic on Bobby Green. Ruffy's looking. Everyone's always making these edits and comparing him to prime Connor, 2015, 2016 Connor, and I just don't think that Bobby Green is fast enough. I don't think that he's going to be able to get out of the way of the shots of Ruffy. And his last couple fights, he beat Jim Miller at UFC 300. Great fight. Did piece up Jim Miller, but talking about what 62-year-old fucking Jim Miller at this point, and then you get subbed by Patty in the first minute and a half, 2 minutes. He hasn't fought a guy with power with really good striking since he fought Jalen Turner, and he got KO'd bad. I mean, that's probably one of the worst stoppages I've ever seen. I could see Bobby Green fraud checking Ruffy. I think that this is a pretty big step up for him, but I don't. I mean, the only fight that I can think of where Bobby Green really fraud checked someone was when he fought Grant Dawson, and he KO'd him in a minute. But I think that Ruffy's way better than Grant Dawson. I don't see a way. I mean, it could be an instance like when we saw Peyton Talbot versus who did he just fight on the last pay-per-view? Or I can't remember his name, but I mean, he was a minus 1300 favorite, and then he just gets like 30-27, 30-26, I think was one of the scorecards. I don't think that's likely. I think it's a possibility where Ruffy gets fraud checked, but I think that Ruffy's just on too much of a crazy streak right now. He's been pretty active. Um, yeah, I think that he's going to be able to go in, KO him in the first round, maybe the second. I don't see this going to a decision if Ruffy wins. If it goes to a decision, it's probably going to Bobby Green. Um, I could see Bobby like working the jab, working the body a little bit, maybe holding him up against the fence and just keeping him there, and maybe trying to get like point fight decision. But I don't know, man. I think that Ruffy's got this one in the bag. I think that this is a good step up for him. I think that it's going to give him a lot of hype, and I'm definitely interested to see what happens after he knocks him out. I'm actually really excited for this fight. Amanda Lemos versus Yasmin Lucindo. Every pay-per-view needs a fight where you can just go take a shit, go order another beer, go grab some wings, go heat up a pizza, whatever you need. This is that fight. You know, every good card has that. Um, yeah, give me Lucindo. Yeah, honestly, who gives a fuck about this fight? Next fight on the card, Jalen Turner versus Ignacio Bahamondes. I'm gonna take Bahamondes by decision. I'm going to say probably 30-27. I could see Jalen Turner winning the first round, but I think that Bahamondes is just too technical. I think he's too fast for Jalen Turner. Um, both of them are very used to being the bigger guy in there, having that long reach, having the height advantage, and I think that I mean, they're both the same height, they're both the same reach. I don't. That's going to get negated. That height and reach advantages, they're going to cancel each other out, so it's going to come down to just each other's skills, and I think that Bahamondes is overall a better striker. I've been really high on him since he knocked out Roosevelt Roberts, and I like Jalen Turner, but you look at the last couple of fights, you know, versus Hanato, yeah, he dropped Hanato bad and probably would have won the fight if he followed up. It's like when you watch NFL and you get a guy that gets like a 50-yard bomb and then he drops the ball like, a yard away from the end zone, and then they don't get a touchdown, there's a fumble, and then they fucking lose the game. Like, that's pretty much what Jalen Turner did in his last fight. He KOs Bobby Green at this point. Like, cool. I don't really rate that win too highly. I mean, it was a vicious knockout. I think it looks good, but it's Bobby Green. Like, he's been in since what, 15 fucking years. Like, homie's old. Knocked out an old head. Cool. And I mean, the Dan Hooker fight too. It's like Jalen Turner breaks Dan Hooker's arm in the first round, and then you lose a split decision. It's like you can't finish a one-arm Dan Hooker. I know Dan Hooker's really good, but he's got one fucking arm. Like, that should have been I don't want to say an easy win, but he should have at the very least won a decision, probably knocked him out. And then I look over at Bahamondes. He's been super active. He's had great knockouts recently. Yeah, he lost to Ludovic Klein, but I like, he's been pretty active in his last couple of fights. He's the younger guy. I think he's more technical. I could definitely see Bahamondes. I'm going to say probably 30-27s across the board and maybe a 29-28 in there. I think that Jalen Turner's on a bit of a slide. I don't really see how he wins this fight super well. I think Bahamondes is just more technical. I think he's just the better striker. And he doesn't have as bad losses. I don't see a way for Jalen Turner to win this fight. To the co-main event, Justin Gaethje versus Rafael Fiziev. I'm taking Gaethje by decision. I know that Gaethje just got knocked out in his last fight, and the first fight between them was super close. That's probably why Justin Gaethje's a dog here, but I think that after getting KO'd by Max, he's going to be a little gun shy. I think he's going to sit on the outside a little bit more, work his jab, work the low kicks, and I think it's going to be it should be an entertaining fight. I mean, it's Gaethje. When is he not entertaining? But I don't see a way. I don't see Fiziev winning this fight. Could happen, but after the Gamrot fight, he's been out for a year and a half with a knee injury, and one of Gaethje's best moves is his leg kicks. I mean, he's going to be cooking that leg the whole time. Plus, Gaethje was already preparing for Dan Hooker, who is similar to Fiziev in their styles. They're both tall, rangy guys. Well, not so much Fiziev. He's not really that tall, but Fiziev likes working his kicks. He likes working at range, and I think that Gaethje's just he has better finishing potential, and he's going to be more technical after the Max knockout. We've never seen Gaethje get KO'd like that before. Yeah, he's been TKO'd by Poirier. He got TKO'd by Eddie Alvarez, but it wasn't like a flatline knockout. I think that Gaethje's going to be a little bit worried about his chin, and he's going to play a lot safer, and I think that favors him in this fight, working the low kicks, working the jabs, sitting at range. I'm going to take Gaethje by 30-27 decision all across the board. In the main event, we got Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev. I'm taking Pereira by KO. Looking back at the Rakic fight with Ankalaev, Rakic was doing very well in that first round. And I loved the way that Rakic was working the low kicks. I loved the way that he was mixing in the kicks in general. And he won that first round. And then for whatever reason, Rakic is just one of the lowest IQ people at fucking light heavyweight. Stops working the kicks, stops working the head kicks, the low kicks, and Ankalaev just wins a boring decision. Lo and behold, what else is new? I mean, Pereira, he's going to be cooking that leg the entire time. He's he's just too powerful for Ankalaev. I think that Ankalaev is a good striker. I think that it's going to be somewhat competitive on the feet. I don't even see Ankalaev taking him down. I really don't. I think that Pereira has been putting off this fight. I mean, this fight should have happened definitely before the Roundtree fight. Arguably, after he KO'd Jamal, they should have done Ankalaev. Um, so I think that Pereira has just been in the gym working his takedown defense, working, just not letting Ankalaev get a hold of him. And I think he's going to be able to keep him at range. He's going to be working the low kicks. And I think in natural Pereira fashion, he's going to get a pretty early KO. If Ankalaev is able to work in the takedowns, I think that it's going to be a pretty boring, say that Ankalaev is able to get a hold of Pereira. He gets him down, holds him up against the cage. He's not going to be able to sub Pereira. He's not going to be able to sub him. He's not going to be able to. He's not going to work any ground and pound. It's going to be typical, just lay on top. It's going to be like the Jan Blachowicz fight. It's going to be like the last 2 rounds of the Blachowicz fight where he's just laying on top of him, not really doing anything. It's going to be a boring decision or boring rounds where Ankalaev is on top. Hopefully, it doesn't get to that point. I don't want to see Ankalaev as champ. I don't think it's good for the sport. I don't think he's entertaining. I really don't. Like, the Rakic fight was decent, but Rakic is just fucking dumb. That that's a big reason Big Ank won that fight. If Rakic had just kept doing what he was doing and for whatever reason doesn't change up his game plan going into the second, Rakic wins that fight and we don't have to deal with this. Like, Ankalaev definitely deserves this fight, and I think he does have a chance at winning if he can get Pereira down. But I think that's the only way he wins this fight. He does not win this fight on the feet. No. Pereira's too powerful. He's too technical. He's too precise. There's no way Ankalaev wins this fight on the feet, and I don't think that he's going to be able to take Pereira down. Pereira's been in the gym. Like, this is why he's been putting off this fight. He's been wanting to stay in the gym, work on his takedown defense. He's working with Glover Teixeira for the last couple of years at this point. He's been preparing for Ankalaev. He knew he was going to have this fight. That's why he's taking Yuri Prochazka, a guy he already finished, easy KO. That's why he's taking Khalil Roundtree, the number 8 guy in the division. Hard fight, a lot closer than anyone expected. But then he just gets into this fucking matrix flow state and murders Khalil. And I don't see Ankalaev outstriking him, and I don't see him being able to effectively grapple Pereira to a point where he's going to be able to win. Could happen. I mean, it's Big Ank. Like, this is the narrative going into the fight. Pereira's never fought a grappler other than kind of Blachowicz, and Blachowicz kept him down. But I do not see Ankalaev winning this fight. I think that Pereira is going to knock out Big Ank in probably the first couple of rounds. It could go a little late, but I mean, I see it as a typical Alex Pereira fight, what we all know and love about him. KO early, and then his next fight is going to be moving up and fighting Tom Aspinall. That's how I see this fight going. That's how I see this card going. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Like, subscribe. Let me know your guys' thoughts, and enjoy the fights. I'll talk to you next time.